Today, I want to talk about confusing relationships. And I feel whenever the word relationship is brought up, most of the time, I think people might straight away go to intimate relationships when that isn't always the case. You have so many different relationships with all different sorts of people. Even with pets, you've got relationships with them. So I just firstly wanted to address that because I want to talk about confusing relationships, ambiguous relationships. And these relationships are ones where you feel so confused because you don't know what the other person is thinking about you. And I don't think these relationships should have any place in your life. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. And I've noticed that with myself and a couple of my very close friends that once they get rid of these ambiguous relationships, they feel so much better. At the time, they're going to feel terrible. I feel terrible. But after a while, you feel so much better because you don't have the dread of preoccupying yourself with worrying about what that other person is thinking of you. And then vice versa. Now, I first heard of this concept from Vanessa Van Edwards and her podcast episode on the Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. And it was from then that it got me thinking. I started to notice that I had ambiguous and confusing relationships with people. And so I decided to address these. So first of all, how do you know if you've got an ambiguous relationship with someone? And like I mentioned at the start of the video, it could either be friendships, intimate relationships, or even colleagues of yours. It could be anyone that you just interact with. So what I noticed with myself and all of the confusing relationships that I had was I didn't know if the other person liked me. And I didn't know if I liked the other person. And especially when I was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for them to reply to messages, or I was just constantly overthinking 60 minutes, every minute of every hour of every day. I was just constantly thinking and overthinking about, does this person like me? Why aren't they responding? Are they ignoring me? Yada, yada, yada. The excuses just pile up. And from making this acknowledgement, I was able to really understand how unhealthy these habits were. It's not healthy to be constantly overthinking about what someone else might be thinking of you, or why they might not be responding to you. Because in reality, who cares? Who cares? It's all right. The world is going to keep spinning. So that's how I'm able to identify an ambiguous relationship that I have. Oh, and one more thing on that. Also ask yourself the same questions. Are you acting in the same way? Are you also taking forever to respond? Are you also not sure if you like that person? Are you also not sure how to act around them? All of these things, I like using the term having confluence. So if you can have confluence, meaning all of these things together show you the same thing, then that is when you have a confusing and ambiguous relationship. So now I'm going to talk about some action steps, some things that you can do to either eliminate or resolve these confusing relationships. The first and the most logically simple one, but it's not as easy to do as it is to say, and that is just ask. Excuse me. Just ask. Ask the person about the situation. Ask them. Say, for example, you could say, hey mate, I've noticed that we've been drifting a little bit and our relationship just doesn't feel the same as it used to be. Is everything all right? And framing it in a nice and positive way allows you to gain clarity, and you're also able to gain with clarity comes a better understanding of your own thoughts about this person, but also the other person's thoughts about you. And by addressing the issue, you're not going to have these problems. You're not going to be overthinking about whatever you were overthinking about. You'll have more mental capacity to do whatever else that you want to do. Let's just say you like going fishing or you like reading books. You have more mental capacity to focus and actually retain all of the information that you're reading. So you either address the person. I found that really helps, and it could go one of two ways. It could go really good, and the relationship is repaired, rejuvenated, or it doesn't go so good, and you acknowledge and you both come to the realization that maybe this relationship isn't going to work. Maybe we're drifting apart. And that's okay too. That really is okay, because you acknowledge that you're growing and that they're growing and you're growing apart. And you have to respect that. And at times it can be really difficult to come to this realization. But it's a necessary one for you to be able to grow. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else that I wanted to say about ambiguous relationships, because from my own experience, once I've completely got rid of them, I felt so much better. But like I said at the start, within the first couple of days, during and after making this decision, I felt terrible. I did not want to see anyone. I did not want to do anything. I felt terrible. But once I was able to get myself out of the rut and out of this mental cloud, I felt amazing. But it takes time. That is the most important thing that I want you to take out of this, is that it takes time. And by letting yourself heal with time and addressing the issue, you'll be better for it in the long run. That was it from me on ambiguous relationships. And as always, there is one thing that I want you to remember, and that is change starts with you.